Yes, you are. You gonna lay down? Oh, good. Okay. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Hi, Lori. I'm glad you are here. I'm a couple minutes early as usual. We have to do this in the bedroom again. Oh, my hair is all kinds of messed up. We have to do this in the bedroom again because, of course, today is a wind warning, a high wind warning. There's like a windstorm out there, and so I thought that would be a bad idea to try to do the video when there's a windstorm. So we are we are back in the bedroom, which means poor Peter and Dad are out there trying to drown me out. If you hear background stuff, Ty has decided to join us, I think because I was eating up until when I started and he knew I would share with him. So here we are. I want to start by saying happy first day of March. Yay. This is the month that spring is in. This is the month that Ostara is. This is the month that Irish Heritage Day, for me at least, is, and other people call it St. Patrick's Day. That's okay too. There's a lot of new beginnings and new opportunities and new growth coming through for this month, and hopefully you all can feel some of that. Where are you going? Don't think you're leaving. Hopefully you all can feel some of that energy, because I definitely do. I feel like there's a lot of good things coming down the pike. I had kind of a revelation. Hi, Fatima. I had kind of a revelation. Hi, Kim. This week of what to start with, anyways, as far as coming back with videos. That I'm going to try to start from the beginner level again, because I think my viewpoint has changed. When I did my original, hi, Michelle. When I did my original like beginner witch series, it was years ago now, and I think I've grown in different ways, and so I think I may have a new and different perspective on it than I did when I did those videos originally. So I'm kind of going to start over and begin again. Some of them may be live, and some of them may be pre-recorded because I'm starting to learn how to edit. So I'm hoping that, you know, people who maybe don't want to watch my hour-long live videos will have the capability of looking at, you know, a 10-15 minute video on a specific beginner witch topic. So look for those to begin soon. I'm starting to outline and write them up. What else? I hesitate to say anything. I wasn't even sure that I was going to bring this up, and I'm really not for the most part, but some of you may have seen things on Facebook and stuff. So the only way or thing that I'm going to say about it, hi Nadine, is that I think that things happen through our lives, and we go through changes that affect the people that we have around us. And I am one that, even if people do things to hurt me, I just have never been that person that bashes people. And my admins can tell you that we've been through so many admins that that I've tried to hang on to for probably longer than maybe I even should have, because I believe in people, and I still believe in people who now are not here, that they are mostly good, and they're just, you know, doing the best they can with what they have. So we are going through some more changes within the admins, and that's okay. And whatever you hear or see, hopefully from my end, it's going to be moving forward and looking forward. And if you have questions that you think you need to know the answers to, you can ask me privately. I may or may not tell you much about the situation because, like I said, for me, I just want to move forward. I have a lot of good things, I think, coming down the pike and good opportunities. And so that's where my focus is and will be. Okay, so, yay. I will tell you too, the other thing that I need to say as an aside is that I am constantly amazed at how wonderful you all are. Because, we all go through dark periods where you question yourself and you lose confidence and you go through some darkness, and you all are extremely supportive and loving, and that's, I think, partly why that's where my focus is, as much as I possibly can, to keep my focus there, because that's what I want. So I choose to focus on what I want. All right. Yay. So, chapter 6, let me again say before we totally start. Hi, Amber. We are going to be going through chapter 6. We're going to be discussing chapter 6. We're going to talk about everything that's in chapter 6 and what happened. So if you have not read through chapter 6 and you do not want spoilers, excuse me, you do not want to know what happened in chapter 6 and you don't want us to spoil it for you, then now is the time for you to bow out of this video for now, even though I love you, because we are going to be discussing everything that happened in chapter 6 and breaking it down and talking about what it means and what we thought of it and that kind of stuff. So I'll give you a second here. Dun, 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 dun. It's time for you to bow out if you don't want spoilers. All right. And now, so chapter 6, we remember that in chapter 5, Gorlois and Igraine got into a huge battle, kind of really big marriage fight, right? And were on their way back to Tintagel. I met many teachers in the spiritual realm. You're not only real. Oh, thank you, Kim. I truly appreciate it. I really do. And like I said, it's all of you that really give me the strength to go on teaching when I'm really dark. Sometimes I think, am I doing this in the right way? Should I keep going? And I'm constantly encouraged by all of you who are so supportive and kind and caring and loving, and that's where I always try to come from, a place of love. So that's it. And if you talk to my admins, or if you've been here long enough, you will see that everything in life goes through ups and downs. And we have been through people sometimes that have had, different changes in their lives that for whatever reason broke apart from us. And some of those people said horrible, nasty, awful things. And I just don't do that. That's just not who I am. So if anybody tells you differently, I encourage you to look back on all my videos and see what I teach, because that's what I believe in. Always. Even if, people hurt me and I feel bad and stuff, I still come from a place of love. Always. And I always have, and I always will. And that's my focus all the time. That's where it will be and is and has been. That's it. Okay. Chapter 6. Because like I said, in the last week, we're getting down. Thank you, Fatima. I love you guys. I really do. We're getting down to this nitty-gritty stuff that, thank you, Lori. Really, you guys, you amaze me continuously. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty stuff of, yay, thank you, of the book it really starts to, no, not at all. It's just not who I am. of the book, and it really starts to draw you in now, and you really start to go, oh, these, you're starting to really know these characters, you're starting to really enjoy these characters, or really not enjoy these characters, right? You're really starting to go, okay, asshole, enough is enough with this, right? So as we go through, these chapters coming up are really important chapters, and they really are chapters that are making us really look um, at the book, and want to, they suck you in, and you want to see more and hear more about the book. Okay, now we're at 5:10. Now that I know we're definitely after 5 o'clock, I'm going to start. So here we are. We end up back at Tintagel. So we're back at Tintagel Castle. Gorlois brings Igraine back to the castle. Bless you to whoever sneezed. Igraine goes back to Tintagel, where Gorlois kind of imprisons her, right? And so we get the impression right off the bat that she's kind of stuck there, and there's not a whole lot she can do, and we don't really understand how deeply she's imprisoned there until a little bit later in the chapter. But we see Morgane, her daughter Morgane, who has grown in leaps and bounds, as any time, if you've ever been on vacation without your kids or anything. Yes. Did I say something else? I did mean imprisoned. Whatever I said, I meant imprisoned. What did I say? I'll have to go back and watch. Yeah, I'm glad you know me, squirrel. Anybody who's had kids or has nieces or nephews or anything, every time you see them, it's like, holy cow, how in the world did they grow so fast in front of us, right? She sees Morgane and is like, she is a little young lady now, and she looks much older, and she's able to kind of speak her mind a little bit more, and she's not like the baby that she left, right? Morgause now, also her sister Morgause has grown and is more like a woman now. She realizes that she's 14. You said it's a proper name. Whoops. How in the world did I say that? And so one of the first things that happened is Igraine is upset that at Gorlois' treatment of Morgause. And what is the treatment? We find out it's kind of creepy and pervy, right? So we left chapter 5 knowing that Gorlois could not perform for his wife anymore sexually. And we see one of the first things that Igraine saw that Gorlois followed the girl Morgause with his eyes. She thought appalled, Morgause is only 14. Then she remembers in dismay that she herself had been but a year older. She was only 15 when she was given to Gorlois as his bride. Later she saw them together in the hall, Morgause lying her head confidently on Gorlois' shoulder, saw the look in her husband's eyes. Hard anger struck her, not so much for the girl as for Gorlois. She saw that they moved uneasily apart as she came into the hall, and when Gorlois had gone away, she looked at Morgause, her eyes unsparing, until Morgause giggled uneasily and stared at the floor. So how does Igraine convince the naive Morgause not to flirt with Gorlois? So, here we are. We know that Igraine and Gorlois are having trouble. We know that Morgause is kind of a naive young girl who doesn't really understand how the world works. And Igraine, of course, is going to be pissed off and uneasy and all that. Hi, Kay. Love you. So Igraine is able to very successfully, I might add, convince Morgause that she might not want to be flirting with her husband Gorlois, even though she knows she doesn't really want Gorlois anymore, and she knows that, but she does convince her. So Morgause says, why are you looking at me like that, Igraine? Are you afraid that Gorlois likes me better than you? Gorlois was too old for me. Is he not that much older than you? With you, he thinks he would have me back as he first knew me. Too young to say him nay. In other words, too young to say no to him. or to look at another man. I am no longer a pliant girl, but a woman with a mind of her own, and perhaps he thinks you would be easier to deal with. Lecherous man, I know, after all his accusations, then he starts looking at her sister like that. Yeah, nasty, pervy dude. Perhaps then, Morgause said, now she's insolent. Now she's like, oh, well, you should look to keeping your own husband content instead of complaining that some other woman can do for him what you cannot. So, again, in this time where the men have all the power, obviously Morgause has heard stories. So she lashes out at Igraine. Maybe you should keep your man happy, right? So, of course, her first thing is going to be hurt. Igraine raised her hand to slap the girl, right? As we all would have been like, you little bitch. Then, by sheer force of will, kept herself still. She said, summoning all her self-discipline, do you think it matters to me whom Gorlois takes to his bed? I am certain he has had his share of trollops, but I would rather my sister was not among them. I have no wish for his embraces, and if I hated you, I would give you to him willingly. But you are too young, as I was too young. And Gorlois is a Christian man. If you let him lie with you, and he gets you with child, he will have no choice but to marry you off in haste to whatever man at arms will have used goods. These Romans are not like our own people. Morgause, Gorlois may be smitten with you, but he will not put me away and take you to wife, believe me. Among our own people, maidenhood is of no great consequence. A woman of proven fertility, swelling with a healthy child, is a most desirable life. So, in other words, on Avalon, on the Isle of Avalon, sex is not such a perverted thing. So, it's not such a big deal if a woman is with child. It's not seen as, oh, she's unchaste, this horrible, dirty woman now, you know. It's seen as a sign of fertility. Oh, look, she can have children. Yay, that's a good quality. But it is not so with these Christians. I tell you, they will treat you as one shamed, and the man he persuades to marry you will make you suffer all your life long that he did not have the planting of the child you bear. Is that what you want, Morgause, who could marry a king if you choose? Will you throw yourself away, sister, to spite me? And Morgause went pale. I had no idea, she whispered. Oh, no, I do not want to be shamed, Igraine. Forgive me. So it's very effective. Her shaming of her worked in both ways. It kept Morgause away from Gorlois because she knows Morgause is looking for a better life. And she doesn't blame her. She's looking for a life that will give her the finer things. And we know that Vivian and the Merlin have said to her, you know, you have the opportunity to be married to a king. But that certainly won't happen if you end up pregnant from Gorlois, because then you'll be trash. You'll be used goods, and you will not be married to a king. You will be married to whoever will take sloppy seconds. So that's, you know, horrible as it is, that's kind of where we're at. So let's talk about the time here. We know that it starts in very early spring. When they get back from Londinium, it is early spring. It goes all the way through. It goes through summer, into summer, through the Beltane fires, which is, you know, in May. It goes through the hot summer, all the way through that. The days start to shorten, and at night, frost begins to arrive at night. So, October, late October, early November, something like that, we're talking about time-wise. So, it's probably been 8-9 months of time that she is in this castle. Gorlois only stays in the castle for 4 days. When they first get there, he's there for 4 whole days, and then he takes off to do his war thing, and she's there without him there. And as we find out, there's she's not allowed out of the castle. She's like a prisoner in her own home. So all summer they don't go out to the festivals, they don't go out to the fairs, you know, where people sell stuff. They don't go out. They are cooped up inside. Um, she has no news from the outside, no news of Uther. So for 9 months, she's waiting to hear. She's heard that this is her destiny, that Uther is her destiny, that they're supposed to be together, that the two of them are supposed to birth the next king who will unite the pagans and Christians. And for 9 months, here's no word. No word of her husband, no word of Uther, no word of the war, no word of what happened when they were in Londinium. She still doesn't know what the hell happened really when they were in Londinium, just that something occurred. And so finally, they get a little bit of news of the war um, when some of their men come back and say Irish raiders have been on the coast. They burnt a village and a church. Some armies, not Gorlois, were marching into the summer country, and those armies had a red dragon on their banner. So now she knows that Uther has been at war, fighting at war. She knows that Uther is doing this thing that they had talked about, that he's trying to beat down the Saxons and all that. Um, we find out that grain is not even allowed to ride into the market. So literally now here we are. It's almost winter. And so she starts to say, okay, I need to get some supplies for winter. Here, she's still the lady of the house. She's still supposed um, to get everything together for the winter and have the house ready to get through winter. And she's not even allowed to ride into the market. Thanks, Gorlois. He really has made it so she has no capability of meeting her secret love, I'm sure is what he's thinking. She's truly a prisoner. She asks to send a message to her sister, and the guards say, "No, I'm sorry, Gorlois wouldn't like that. You can't get a message out to your sister." So now she's isolated on top of it. It's not that she can't leave. It's not just that she can't leave. It's also that she can't talk to her family. She's completely isolated in Tintagel, which when I posted this morning another video of Tintagel, I love that we have videos and actual pictures and stuff, and those of you who are on the other side of the pond, or if you ever go to visit England, we can go visit the castle of Tintagel and see where this occurred and where grain would have been, which I think is so interesting. I love looking at the Tintagel castle stuff. Oh, I love you too, Kay. Thank you. So cute. Love you, Kay. You can see like how isolating it must have felt, because it's on this huge hill and there's the sea there, and especially when it's cold, you can see where it would be like, oh God. Number 3, what does Igraine resort to for news? So finally she's like, okay, I have to figure something out. I have to be able to get some news somewhere. So she says, I cannot stay here forever, shut in like a rat in a trap. I must go to the market fair. We must buy dyes. There's need of new milk goat and of needles and pins and many things for the winter. And her guard says, nope, sorry, lady, I have no orders to let you go abroad, and turns his eyes away from her. And I like the fact that the guards seem to be like, I know it's kind of stupid. I know you really need stuff for the castle and stuff, but we're not allowed to let you go. I'm sorry. You can see like the guards are like, okay. Even if they heard the stories of Uther. You can, and that's the second part of this. The first part that she does is she says, then I will stay here and I'll send one of my women. Etar or Azada shall go, and the Lady Morgause with her. Will that suffice? And finally they say, oh yeah, okay. You can let your sister go with a couple of the women who are, your maidservants and stuff. They're allowed to go and buy stuff at the market and that kind of stuff. It's just you're not allowed to leave. Which is like, oh my God, people, whatever. But at least they're allowed to go. So She sends more ghosts. So that's good. He looked relieved. I love the guard looks relieved, as she had hit upon a solution to save him from disobeying his lord. For it was indeed necessary that someone from the household should visit a fair before the winter, and he knew it as well as she did. It was outrageous to keep the lady of the house from what was, after all, one of her proper duties. She has to keep this house going. And how's she going to do that through the winter if they have no supplies? They have to be able to eat and stuff. Thank you, Kim. You guys are so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. You guys are so cute. So yes, so finally she gets more ghosts and a couple of her women friends out there, and they come back with news. So Morgause returns from the market with news, right? You rock. I love this interaction. I did want to read. I know this is kind of long, and I might not read the whole thing, but this interaction that she has, Morgause leaves to the market to go get stuff. In the meantime, she's sitting out on this balcony, and she's teaching Morgane, her daughter, how to spin. They learn from a very young age how to spin. She's teaching her daughter how to spin, and her daughter says to her something like, I don't remember my father. What did she say? Morgane says, I do not remember my father, mother. Where is he? So it's been long enough. You know, it's been 9 months. And to a child who's probably, what, 4? And hadn't seen him for very long, when she may have remembered, because remember, they went to Londinium for quite a long time, and came back for 4 days and then left again for 9 months. Morgane doesn't really even remember who the hell he is, and she's forgetting rapidly what he even looks like. So Igraine says he's away with his soldiers in the summer country, and she says, well, when will he come home? I do not know, Morgane. Do you want him to come home? And she considers. She says, no, because when he was here, I remember it just a little. I had to go to sleep in Auntie's room, and it was dark, and I was afraid at first. Of course, I was very little then. I love, that's one of those things that kids all say, right? I was very little then. I was just a baby, when really we're like, you're still a baby. She added solemnly, and Igraine concealed a smile. After a minute, she went on, and I do not want him to come home because he made you cry. So again, out of the mouths of babes, right? One of the things she says is, he made my mommy cry. So now she doesn't like him. She doesn't want him to come home. Screw him. She asks, why don't you have another baby? Other women have a baby as soon as the elder one is weaned, and I'm already 4. So she's 4. I heard Azada say, you should have given me a baby brother. I think I would like to have a little brother to play with, or even a little sister, maybe. And she started to say, because your father Gorlois, and then she stops herself. She's like, okay, Morgane's still a baby. I don't need to tell her the ins and outs of our marriage. All right. So instead she says, because the mother goddess did not see fit to send me a son child. And what happens but good old Father Columba comes out to the terrace and says to her austerely, you should not talk to the child of the goddesses in superstition. Gorlois wishes her to be reared as a good Christian maiden. Morgane, your mother did not have a son because your father was angry with her, and God withheld a son to punish her for her sinful will. Which again is part of the bad, ill feelings that we have towards Christians like this. And again, I don't have anything against Christians as a whole. I have something against the judgmental. There should be another word for it. I tend to use evangelicals, even though it's not evangelicals as a whole either, but it does kind of separate it a little bit. But the extreme judgmental Christians that, like in this kind of day, I have a huge thing against. How dare you say that to a child? How dare you? It brings back memories of a church that I had tried to go to a long time ago that had had daycare for the kids, and I'm sure if you've seen my channel for long enough, you've heard me tell this story before. They went to daycare at 3 and 4, my oldest boys, at this church that I was trying out. And they had colored pictures with crayons that had all of these different people walking in a line into hell because of how horrible they were. And they had like a pro-choice shirt on, and that's the one that sticks out to me. A rock and roll shirt on or something, like how horrible these people were. They were being walked into hell. And I went to the pastor and I was like, do you realize this is what you're teaching? This is what these people, the teachers you have teaching 3 and 4-year-olds in your daycare while we're all being taught whatever you're teaching. And he said, oh, well, they have to learn sometime. I said, yeah, not my kids. We won't be back. That was the last time I went to that church. I've never been into the judgmental bullshit. I just can't. I can't abide it. So anyways, so this is what she says. God withheld a son to punish her for her sinful will. How dare you? And so, Igraine gets into it with Father Columba yet again, and says, go away, old man. I don't like you. You have made my... Oh, this is Morgaine. Morgaine says to him, I love this. Morgaine stood up and made a face at the priest. Go away, old man, she said clearly. I don't like you. You have made my mother cry. My mother knows more than you do. And if she says that it is the goddess who did not send her a child, I will believe what she says and not what you say, because my mother does not tell lies. I just can so clearly see this little girl standing up for her mother, right? Can't you? I see Rain, Courtney Birch's little daughter, Rain. I can just see her. Go away, old man, you bastard. That's who I picture anyway as Morgaine right now, is this little pixie face and everything. I so picture Rain in this role. If any of you know Courtney, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'll ask Courtney if it's okay. I'm sure she won't mind, but if I post a picture of Rain, because to me, that's what I picture completely with Morgaine, is little Rain. She's just this awesome little spitfire. I just love her. Father Columba says angrily to Igraine, now you see what comes from your willfulness, my lady. That child should be beaten. Give her to me and I will punish her for the disrespect. Well, that's going to go over great, you old fucking jerk piece of shit, ass white motherfucker, right? And finally, Igraine goes off. She's had enough now. Like, she's been trying to keep a low profile a little bit. She's been trying to not flip out, but that's where you're going to say, you're beating my child? Yeah, I don't think so. So she says to her, if you lay a hand on my daughter, priest, I will kill you where you stand. My husband brought you here, and I cannot send you away. But on the day you come into my presence again, I will spit on you. Get out of my sight. Yay, Igraine, right? I just love, this is what I mean. It starts to ramp up, and things start to happen that you're like, hell yeah, this is what I want. He stood his ground. My lord Gorlois entrusted me with the spiritual well-being of this entire household, my lady, and I am not given to pride, so I will forgive what you have said. I care as little for your forgiveness as for that of a billy goat. Get out of my sight, or I will call my serving women and have you put out. Unless you want to be carried out of here, old man, get from here, and do not presume to come into my presence until I send for you. And that will be when the sun rises over Western Ireland. Go. Right? Love it. So, so that is what happens with the confrontation with Father Columba. The next thing is Morgause returns from the market with news. Finally, she gets to hear some news from the market. Morgause comes back, which She finds out there's a great gathering in the summer country, which is not too far from where they are. I mean, it's not close, but it's, closer than Londinium was. She finds out that Merlin made peace with Lot and Uther. So Lot and Uther are now on the same side again. He was successful in bringing them together to fight against the Saxons. And Merlin also brought in Ban of Les Britain. So there's now 3 factions of England that are going to be fighting together against the Saxons. So that's a good thing. He has more of a succinct army put together, which was what they had hoped, is that people would rally under Uther in order to have a chance at beating the Saxons, right? We also learned that Lot is looking for a wife, and that becomes important because Morgause is of a certain age, and we know that she has the possibility of marrying a king. So that is something that, kind of should stick in your head a little bit, because that will come up again. All right. Any questions up until this point? You guys doing okay? Click the like button for me if you can. How are we doing? 36 minutes. And we're doing pretty good. This was a fairly short chapter, so that's good, because we're almost done. It's not going to take us too much longer to get through the rest of this chapter here. So question number 5, Igraine receives a message in her sleep saying what? What does the message in her sleep say? She lays awake. She's worried. She's worried that she hasn't talked to anybody. She's worried that she'll never be able to send a message to Uther. She's worried that Uther has forgotten about her. Maybe they figured something else out in the 9+ months now that she hasn't talked to Uther. She thinks maybe they figured something else out. Maybe that's all there is. So of course she's spinning things through her head. What is it that's going on? And so when she fell into a dazed sleep, she found guidance. Just as she woke, as if a voice said inside her mind, "Rid yourself of this one day of the child and the maiden, and you will know what to do." Send the maiden away for the day. That's right. So Morgause and Morgaine, the voice says, get rid of them for the day and you'll get your guidance. Okay, sounds good. And so she knows she has to get rid of them. How does she get rid of them? She packs them a lunch. She sends them out with the shepherd women for the day. Morgause is like, oh, I'm sick of this castle. Getting out yesterday means that I got to see what it was like out there, and I really miss just being able to go outside of these walls, and it's boring in here, and I want to get out. And so Igraine says, yeah, you should be able to get out. So how about if I pack you a lunch, go hang out with the shepherd women, go walk around, go have a picnic, treat it like a festival, take Morgaine with you, go ahead. So she gets rid of them. Stop licking, mister. I love you. Question number 6 is, also, guess who else she gets rid of? She wasn't even sure she was going to be able to do this, is Father Columba. She thinks, oh, great. I wish I could get rid of Father Columba, because what if he walks in on me or whatever? That's not a good situation. Well, just so happens that the universe, in its timing, makes it so there's a hurt man who's near death. And so one of the soldiers comes running in and says, Father Columba, we need you. They're asking for you because, hi, Lady Blind Wolf, because there's a man who fell off a cliff and he's near death, and they want you to come and pray with this man. And so Father Columba comes in and says, I need to go. And of course, Igraine is like, fuck off, go ahead. Right, he needs to go give rights to somebody. She's like, yay, get the hell out of here. Perfect. So she gets rid of him too. So now Igraine has alone time. And what does she do with this newfound freedom for the day? What does she do? It's been itching at the back of her mind that maybe she should try the sight. Try to purposely induce a vision. She wasn't really trained to do this because she wasn't trained as a priestess, so she's a little worried about it. But she thinks, I'm not allowed to send a message even to my sister, so I'm going to try to reach out to her. Sky-clad scrying, that's right. So she gathers some things, and I love the different things that she gathers. By the way, if you look up these things, like their metaphysical properties, definitely have a purpose in astral travel, in scrying, in inducing visions, that kind of thing. So all of the things that she gathers are actually things in real life that are good for that kind of thing. So let's see, what does she gather? She goes to Morgos's room and she finds the silver mirror that Gorlois got her, that she gave to Morgos. So she gets the silver mirror. She asked the serving women to make a fire in her room. They looked at her because it wasn't really a cold day. Like, really? Are you sure? You want a fire in your room? Yes. I said, like, hello, did I stutter? I am the woman of the house. Make me a damn fire. Right? She goes to the kitchen. She gets salt, a little oil, a bit of bread, a small flask of wine. She also gets a bit of cheese, and she says this is to conceal the intent. If she gets the cheese, it kind of looks like she's making herself a sandwich to eat in her room, like a little snack in her room, right? And she said, as a matter of fact, she says she flings it to the seagulls. She gives it to the birds. She doesn't really want the cheese, but she needs it to kind of hide her intention. So it kind of puts them off course if she has the cheese there too. She goes out into the garden. She gets lavender flowers, and she finds a few wild rose hips, boughs of juniper. Also, juniper to me is the big thing. Rose hips also, and lavender for different reasons, but the juniper to me is a very big one. Juniper is a great one to open your third eye, and it helps to induce visions when you burn it, that kind of thing. And a small piece of hazel. Wonder why she didn't eat the cheese, right? Well, I will say that it has been said, and especially in the old texts, when you talk about witchcraft and visions and that kind of thing in the old texts, they want you to fast before that, because it's something like cleansing yourself to prepare for your vision. They want you to fast for a while. So that's my guess, but I don't know for sure. Okay, so she does that. Then this is what happens. She casts the juniper into the fire. As the smoke rose, she bound the branch of hazel to her forehead. So the hazel is at her third eye. She laid the fruit and flowers before the fire and touched the salt and oil to her breast, took a bite of the bread and a sip of the wine, then trembling laid the silver mirror where the firelight, where she could see the flickering fire in the mirror. And then she pours clear rainwater across the silver surface of the mirror. So this is her ritual, and she knows this ritual. She's seen others do it in Avalon, and she knows it. Then she whispers, by common things and by uncommon, by water and fire, salt and oil and wine, by fruit and flowers together, I beg you, goddess, let me see my sister Vivian. So that is, there's offerings in there, there's representations of the elements in there, and then there's the ask is, by all of this, please allow me to see my sister Vivian. Okay. And guess what? Does she see her sister Vivian? Yes, she does. And she's very upset. She weeps when she sees her sister Vivian. Why? Because her sister is heavy with child. She's in labor. And she's supposed to be past her childbearing years, which means now she has put herself at risk by having a child this late in life. This is how, and she even says, this is how her mother died. And here Vivian is in labor, walking, and in great distress, and she's worried now for her sister. She even feels guilt that she brings her offerings and wants to know things from her sister when her sister is obviously in so much pain. Time to see her in the end of labor. Yeah, and likely dying. Absolutely. Um, so in her head, she says, "Oh no, oh Mother Caradwin, blessed goddess, no, our mother so died. Our mother died this way." But Vivian was so sure she was past childbearing, and now she will die. She cannot bear a child at her age and live. Why, when she knew she had conceived, did she not take some potion to rid herself from this child? This is the wreck of all their plans, then. This is the end. So she's terrified her sister's dying. I too have thrown my life into ruin with a dream. And then she was ashamed of herself that she could think only of her own misery when her sister was to lie down in childbed from which it could hardly be hoped that she would ever rise again. So her sister's about to die, and she's still, wanting to know the things she wants to know. Vivian then raises her head. So she sees all of this in her mirror. She can see Vivian raise her head and look past the heads of the priestesses, the women who are around her, and into her dulled eyes, drawn with anguish, come to recognition and tenderness. So Vivian looks up and sees Igraine in her vision. She recognizes her astral form standing there. Igraine could not hear her, but it was as if Vivian spoke directly into her mind. Little girl, little sister Granée. Igraine wanted to cry out to her in sorrow and grief and fear, but she did not want to lay her own weight of sorrows upon her sister right now. She poured all her heart into a single outcry. I hear you, my mother, my sister, my priestess, and my goddess. And that's all she says to her. She has all this grief. She has all this unknowing. What the hell is going on? This is what she wanted to do, is Vivian, what the fuck is going on? It's been 9 months. I haven't heard from anyone. Is Uther still supposed to, are we supposed to get together? What's going on? And Vivian responds to her outcry. Vivian says, Igraine, I tell you, even in this hour, do not lose hope. Do not despair. There is a pattern to all of our sufferings, and I have seen it. Do not despair. And for a moment, her hair raising on her forearms, Igraine actually felt on her cheek a light touch, like the lightest of kisses, and Vivian whispered, little sister. And Igraine then saw her sister's face contorted with pain, and she fell as if swooning into the arms of the priestess. So she says to her little sister, and she's about to say something else, and then, she gets another pain, and she faints into the arms of the priestess. She's giving birth to a prince. Yes. And a wind ruffled the water of the mirror. Igraine saw her own face, so now she's back. She's back from her astral travel into her own body. Blurred with weeping, she's looking out through the water. She shivers, clutching some garment, anything to warm her, and flung the sorceress's mirror into the fire and threw herself down on the bed and wept. Vivian told me not to despair, but how can I do other than despair when she is dying? So now, of course, the most important thing is her sister's dying. Oh my God, her sister's dying, and there's nothing she can do, and she knows it's happening, and she can't get to her. She's, trapped in this castle. So the last thing, we're almost at the end of this chapter, the last thing that happens in this chapter is she lays there weeping. She doesn't know, she's kind of now in despair. When she didn't think she could cry another tear, she washes her face in cold water. Her last words have been to bid her Igraine not to lose hope. She dresses herself, hung the moonstone around her neck that Vivian had given her, and then, with a little stirring of the air before her, she gets a vision of Uther. All of a sudden, her sister tells her, don't lose hope, don't despair. I've seen it. It's going to be okay. Don't worry so much. Even though I'm in pain, I'm dying, I'm going through this. Don't worry so much. And she sees Uther. This time she knew it was ascending, not the man himself, like she didn't think he was actually standing there. Nothing human, certainly not Uther Pendragon. She could have come into her guarded chamber without some man seeing and stopping him. He wore a heavy plaid about him, but on his arms, and this is why she knew it was no dream, he wore the serpents she had seen when she dreamed of his life in Atlantis. Only they were not now golden torques, golden bracelets around his arms, but live serpents which raised their heads hissing, only she did not fear them. My beloved, he said, and although it was the very tone of his voice, the room was silent in the light of the flickering fire, and through the whispered voice she heard the small crackling of the juniper twigs. So she's still in her body. She still is able to see the things around her. She hears the crackling juniper and the fire that she had thrown in the fire from her visions with her sister. I will come to you at midwinter. I swear it. I will come to you, whatever may bar the way. Make ready for me at midwinter. And then she was alone with only the sun in the room and the reflection of the sea outside and the laughing voices of Morgause and her daughter coming back from their picnic day. So midwinter. So Uther will be here at midwinter at Yule, which is somewhere about December 20th at this time. So she knows she doesn't have long to prepare, but Uther is coming, and she knows he's coming. And that's the end of the chapter, which is a good chapter, right? It kind of sets up so much. And again, we're like, oh, now I need to know what happened. Then what? Does he get there? We'll find out next week. Any questions about where we're at, what we've seen, the characters developing? It goes really fast from here, and I will tell you that the story really picks up at this point, really from last week all the way through. It really picks up a lot, and a lot happens in a small amount of time here. So it's good that we're going through it one chapter at a time. We'll see. There's a couple really, really short chapters, and I have to look up when they are. But for now, we'll just do chapter 7 now for next week. Am I going to be in a new place next week? Yes, I think I'll be at a different place next Wednesday. I think. So I will see you next Wednesday for chapter 7. Super exciting. I'm going to try to be on. Before that, I'm writing the notes for my first foray back into beginner witch stuff. I'm going to start a new beginner witch series, and I'm hoping I'll be able to hopefully have a nice day this weekend, and I can kind of film it this weekend. So watch for that. Hopefully this weekend there'll be a new beginner witch series kind of starting. And thank you guys so much for coming out and for joining us. And I love you guys, and I'm so excited. I just love this book. I'm really glad that we're doing it together because it's super exciting. And it's exciting to teach it because it means so much to me, and I'm really glad to see that you guys are so into it too, because it means so much to me. I just love it. All right. Click the like button on the way out. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys. And we'll see you next week or this weekend if you tune in this weekend. I'll see you then.